All right, guys, we are back in my garage for another video, and today I'm going to show you how to access the hidden menu on your BMW cluster. This is a really nice way to be able to see real sensor values, some data and diagnostic information that your dealer will probably use when they're working on your car, but it's not readily available to you when you're just using your normal gauge as an iDrive screen. So I use this a lot in my personal use for like tuning and modifying my car, as well as maintaining it and just making sure that everything's working as good as possible. And it's just a nice feature to have since it's hidden in the car. Being able to access it is just pretty cool. So I'll show you guys how to access it on your car, show you what all the different options do, and give you a little more information on where it can benefit you. And hopefully you guys find this video useful. All right, so I'm going to demonstrate how to do this for BMWs that have the gauge cluster you see here. Keep in mind, this works on BMWs way back. It's been working for a long time, but BMW put this gauge cluster in their cars from around 2019 all the way up to 2023 or 2024, like right before they switched to the full screen that's like across the entire dashboard. So if you have that, this might not work, but it probably will, considering this has been working in BMWs again for decades now. So I'm just going to demonstrate how it works with the screen, but feel free to try it if you have a different setup just to see what options you have. So the process is pretty simple. On the steering column stalk on the left of your steering wheel, if you look at the top, you will see a button labeled BC. And so you're going to long press that button until the hidden menu comes up. And keep in mind, it does take probably a lot longer than you'd probably think. So here's how long it takes. I am pressing the BC button now. Still holding. Still holding. Still holding. Yep, still holding. There we go. So that's how long it takes for the menu to come up. So if it seems like it's not coming up right away, just be patient, keep holding it. That's how long it takes for it to come up. Also, keep in mind my car is tuned, so when I long press the BC button, it enables some settings in my tune, and that's why the check engine light over here is flashing. It's for my map switching and stuff like that. So ignore that. If your car is stock, it won't do that. It'll just show the hidden menu in the middle. Now, we've got some, intro options here available, but we're going to go ahead and set up everything. So what you're going to do is tap the BC button, and it's going to go all the way down to this option that says unlock. And again, you're going to long press. Still holding. There we go. And then it's going to ask you to put in a code. Your code is going to be the sum of the last 5 digits of your VIN. So the last 5 digits of my VIN are 94667. So I add those up and I get my code of 32. So I'm going to tap BC until we get up to 32. And then when you get to it, long press BC again. Still holding. There we go. And now it is fully unlocked. So you can see more options available. So let's look at what we have. The first one is identification. If you long press, still holding. There we go. It shows a bunch of basic information about your car, such as the software version. Again, it shows like the last 7 digits of my VIN. A lot of different things. This is mostly for diagnostics. So like if you're working on updating coding in your car or something like that, then you might need some of this information. So if people are asking you HMI version or software version and stuff like that, then this is a way that you can go and look at it without needing dealership software or anything. All right, so we'll long press to go back. And then we'll go to the next option. This one has always been grayed out for me. It might work in diagnostic mode or something like that, so I'll have to try that later. But normally the system test option basically makes your cluster go through a full test. So like all of the lights will turn on, all of basically everything. It'll show you all the check engine lights and errors and stuff that it can show. And like on a more analog cluster, it'll even like sweep through the entire range to show that all the needles on your dials are working and stuff like that. So it works for most other platforms, but maybe because this is a digital screen, they have the option there, but it's not enabled because it's not needed for a digital cluster. So then we tap BC again, and this will put your car into dyno mode. So if you long press this, it'll put the car into dyno mode. I'm not going to do it now because it takes me out of the hidden menu, and then I'd have to go back and restart the whole thing. But if you want to go check how much power your car is making, sometimes it can throw errors when it's on the rollers, but the car is, basically stationary, especially if your car is rear wheel drive. If it sees the rear wheel spinning, but the front wheels aren't spinning, it'll throw some errors and cut out power and cause issues. So you come into here, long press BC, and it will enable dyno mode, and that will let the car go through the full rev range, and you can floor it and see how much power and torque your car is making, or for whatever mods and stuff you've put on your car. On my rear wheel drive cars, I have to do this only when the hood is open. So when the hood is closed, I'm able to disable traction control and then just floor it and it works fine. But if you want to dyno it with the hood open and like the fans running and everything to keep the engine cool, like most people do, then you need this option. So you'll need to enable dyno mode every time you turn on the car. If you flash a revision, your tuner sends you a new map, you'll turn it back on and enable dyno mode again. So this is what helps you get past that. But if you have any issues on the dyno and your car isn't working, throwing errors or whatever, try that and it should probably fix your issue. Next is showroom mode. Again, I don't know what this is. I've never had it work on this car and I don't see it on other cars, but that might work in diagnostic mode. So I'll have to try that later. But if anybody knows what that does, feel free to leave a comment down below. Next one, this is for the BC button, so we'll long press that again. And this basically resets your range calculation. So now you've got everything basically back to the original settings, and it's estimating how much fuel your car is making. Again, while you drive, it will, correct all of that automatically, but that's a way that you can reset the calculation so you don't have like something messed up. Maybe, for example, when I'm towing my car or when I'm tracking my car, it really messes up the calculation because it thinks you're getting really bad gas mileage. So that's how you get past that and reset it really quickly. But over time, it resets itself anyway. So we'll long press to get out of this. Next, we'll go to the service brake system. I believe this is going to support if you are retracting the rear brake, but I've never actually tried it. Again, I have no reason to because I have the actual mechanical tool that does the service, but this is supposed to help you, I believe, retract the electronic parking brake so that you can service your rear brake pads. So feel free to try that if you're in the middle of that service. Test and that gets you out of here. Unlock is what enables the extra menu. And then this is what I think a lot of you were asking me about. So if you long press here, this will show you your actual tank reading. So on the dash, again, the miles to empty will change, and even like the actual arrow, whether it says a full tank, half tank, or whatever, that will vary. So if you go into here, it shows more accurate data from your fuel reading. So for example, here it shows on the left and right fuel level sensors. That's the resistance that the sensor is getting. And then it's also showing how much fuel is in the left and right side of your fuel tank. So I've got 35 liters on the left side and 32 liters on the right side. And you add that up together and you get your total, which here it's showing 67.2. Now, it's not always exactly matching. I'm not sure why, but usually I just go off of the total reading, because maybe if your car is on like a slight hill or something, like when you come to stop and check it, it will show, from my understanding, like the most accurate last reading that it got. So sometimes it might be a little higher, a little bit lower, because it's trying not to make assumptions based on, you know, maybe a scenario that you're in that could change the fuel level reading. Now, the funny thing is, just like the speedometer, I told you guys that it overcompensates and makes the speedo read high. This also makes your fuel level read high. So you see the total reading, but then this is the displayed value. So even though we have 67.2 liters of fuel, the displayed reading is assuming 67.4. And I've seen that probably a half liter or more higher than the actual reading. And that's why you can't just go off of the gauge cluster. So if you want to calculate an ethanol mix or whatever, go into here, check the tank total reading, and use that as a reference for how much fuel is actually in your fuel tank compared to what's displayed. Because this one, again, is being conservative, so it will hopefully prevent you from running out of fuel, and it'll show the tank is empty, even though you still have a little bit of gas in there. So hopefully, you know, you can avoid that issue. And then tank phase 1, so this just shows which phase, basically which side of the tank your fuel is pulling from. So that'll change depending on how much fuel is in the tank and the left and right side. And then we're back to the beginning, showing the resistance and the sensors. So let's long press and go back. Still holding. All right, and then temperature reading. So this is less helpful for us because we have temp readings on the dash, but for people that have like older setups that don't always show like oil temp and stuff like that, you can long press this option, and eventually, there we go, it'll show your actual readings as well as the sensor data. So it shows, for example, oil temp is at 29.5 or 30 degrees Celsius. Coolant temp is 97 degrees Celsius. Or no, sorry, I'm reading the wrong data. So the oil temp's down at the bottom, 108 Celsius. Coolant temp is 97 degrees Celsius. And yeah, that's all the readings that we get. So again, you can use this as a point of reference. So instead of just using the dummy gauge on the right, you can get an exact reading for what your temperatures are. Long press to go back. Still holding. That's the most annoying part of this, how long it takes. So the final thing is this BC option. And if we long press this, let's take a look. It shows some additional data, which I think because I reset it, everything's showing zeros now, but it can show you some additional data for like the runtime of the car and data and stuff like that. So as I drive, this will show more accurate representation of what's going on. But if you ever want to see, you know, baseline data for the car's runtime and stuff, you can go into this option as well. So long press to go back. And I think that's pretty much it. So it's pretty cool, you know, kind of useful if you're trying to do diagnostics on your car and stuff like that. It really just depends. But for me, the main thing I use this for is when I'm calculating my ethanol mix, I go into here to measure the actual fuel level of the tank. And then that tells me how much ethanol I need to add, how much gas I need to add to hit a specific mix and stuff like that. But otherwise, I really don't go in here. Oh, and I use Dyno Mode when I get on the dyno.
Parking mode on. Parking mode off.
All right, so I just decided to try this. This is after I finished the video, but I went ahead into diagnostic mode, and it does show the other options. So to get into diagnostic mode, you're going to hit the power button 3 times quickly without touching the brakes. And then you can actually open up the hidden menu and it'll show you these other options. So let's try system test. We'll long press here. Still holding. Start system test. So long press, or just tap it to hit yes. Oh, and it does do a little dance. So you can see it's flashing the hazard, showing all the different colors that the screen can show. So no gauge sweep or anything, not as exciting since it's a full digital cluster, but it does at least flash some lights, I guess. So we'll long press BC and go back. Still holding, there we go. And let's try showroom mode. So we'll long press BC. I don't know what this does. All right, start showroom mode. So we'll long press. And I don't see anything. I'll have to double check and see what that actually does. As it stands, everything in the car looks the exact same. All right, jumping in here. So I actually figured out what it does. I went to turn off the car after it was all said and done and didn't realize I never turned off or disabled showroom mode. And when I turned off the car and locked it, all the lights went on. So I'm pretty sure that's what showroom mode does. If you're at the dealership or have it on the floor somewhere, it'll keep all the lights on and the dash and gauges and stuff so anybody can get in the car and see how everything looks on all of the screens without actually needing the engine to stay running or potentially letting the car go to sleep. So kind of a cool feature. Maybe if you're at a car show or something and want it all to stay on even when you lock the car, that will be a way to enable that. But if you value your battery and don't want your battery to die overnight, even after you lock your car, then probably go ahead and leave it disabled. All right, that kicked me out of the hidden menu, so I went back in just to see if any other options worked. I think, again, the service brake system probably works for the e-brake, so maybe next time I do a brake pad service, I'll try to do that. And yeah, that's all of it. So pretty cool overall. Nothing too crazy, but just kind of some diagnostics and stuff. Like I said, I mostly use this for going into the actual tank reading, so I know exactly how much fuel is in the car. And then also, if I get on the dyno, I can use Dyno Mode to avoid having any errors or stuff like that. But yeah, hopefully this answers any questions you guys might have. Hopefully this helps you out, shows you how it works, how to get into it, and what kind of options you can find. Let me know if there's anything else you want to see. Like I said before, I'll be posting more coding videos and stuff like that in the future, so stay tuned for that. But otherwise, that is it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.